I am Andrew
That's what I love.
Mr. Mallard. Join me as always, Mr. Chief of Morale himself, Bud Copeland. Bud, how are you this evening before we go?
So the point being is, good golfers are a fucking dime a dozen, and we saw it in full swing that the line of demarcation between.
Are you ready, Bud? Are you ready for the players? Are you ready to make money? Are you ready to try to beat me?
I didn't do my homework this week.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome into Divots and Pivots. It's Tuesday night here on the Fantasy Sports Corporation, so you know what time it is. It's time for you to hang out with us, hear about our bullshit, hear about our ups and downs at the start of the NFL season, and whatever other crazy thoughts happened to cross Bud's mind while this camera and mic is on. Bud, welcome. How are you this evening?
You owe everyone an explanation. Listen. I'm wearing the Acorn Hills baby blue quarter zip. Fits like a charm, made by the same manufacturers,
yes.
FitJoy, and all that kind of stuff. TBFY 15% off. What in the fuck do you have on? Have you ever seen Old School? Remember Old School? So at the very no, you wish. No, you're thinking of Will Ferrell from Wedding Crashers, where he's at Ma for the meatloaf. Which, for those of you listening on the podcast, that's exactly what he's wearing. He's wearing the maroon smoker's jacket made famous by Will Ferrell and Hugh Hefner, and a baseball cap. So I can't tell what direction we're going here. And you look like the guy who showed up at the front door. He just said, "I'm here for the gangbang." So what's the occasion? Is this a new Andrew? Is this what we can expect from now on? Are you going to start shedding clothing, or did you lose a bet?
No, this is Mr. Mallard. I filmed Sophistication Station today for TSS Fantasy, and I said, You know what? It's time. It's time the road came with me to Divots and Pivots, because what better time than the pivot season? It's upon us. So.
My roommate asked me that too. She's like, "Isn't golf season over?" I was like, "I got bad news for you, honey. The Fortinet Championship starts this week." But before all of that, life's good. Morale is high. In case you missed it, if you don't follow me on Instagram at this buds for you, FORE for the 4. It's like a golf thing. Mm-hmm. How slick is that?
Super slick.
There was a golfer over the weekend for NC State, Mexican chick, junior, who shot. They had her tracking. They actually the online scoring showed that she shot 59. It was gonna be the first 59 in women's golf or collegiate golf history for the women, and they went through the scorecard like they always do. And luckily they caught the official scorecard is the official scorecard. Online scoring, nothing. I mean, I hate to break it to you folks. What you see on your TV means nothing. It's those little scorecards that they sign, and they caught an error in that. So she did though break a new record, 11 under 60. And her name is Lauren. God, I'm gonna fucking butcher this. Where is it? Golfer shoots, college golfer. Where is she? Lauren Olivares Leon. And please don't at me for that. But shoots 60 in the first round, and then she had to go back out. It was a 36-hole day, so that was fun. That was fun. It was fun to see the Irish Open.
Yeah, I saw Shane Lowry was up there getting some practice swings in before the Ryder Cup.
Well, he's got a lot, not a lot to answer for, but he's under the similar pressure as Justin Thomas, right? He's the heart and soul pick, while you have Ludwig Aberg, who's fresh out. He was in class this time last year at Texas A&M, quote unquote class. The guy's a student athlete. We'll see what he was actually doing. But Adrian Moronk, I was just looking because I was watching the Irish Open because I am a junkie and I have no life. And I was trying to see, what they're doing over there in the DP World Tour, because they still go. They go through November. They have just a longer season than we do. Obviously, they have to acquiesce to our seasons.
Yeah, they can they can play through different levels of seasons because the weather's a little different over there. They can get more out of the year than we can.
We could have an entire year-round professional golf league in Jupiter, Florida, if we wanted to. Actually, Arizona would be better, less rain. No, but they're still going. And this week they're at Wentworth, which I guess Wentworth is a very popular course / club over there, and it's hosting the BMW Championship, one of their Rolex series, like their signature events. We think we're slick with our signature events. They've been doing it for a little bit longer already, but basically increased purses. There's no other, nothing other than that. And it goes all the way through November for their tour championship. So I've been paying attention to that. Rory McIlroy is in the lead over there. I think it's Rory and then John Rahm, because there's a lot of crossover events. The majors count towards both tours, and then stuff like the Genesis Open is co-sanctioned. Even some of these what we would call off events, the Barracuda, or the Barbasol, sometimes those get recognized by the DP World Tour because of the number of World Tour guys who fill those spots left by maybe the heavier hitters who are playing in the top tier event that week. And I think you're going to see more of that as they push this whole idea of signature events, and that being 8 times a year. So now there's 12 weeks out of the year that are bigger than the rest if you include the majors. So that's what I've been paying attention to. And
so you just called it, you said the Rolex series. Is that what they actually call like their group of signature events? Are they sponsored by you know more
Rolex.
about the DP tour than I do, but so Rolex sponsors their signature events. They're what we call now our elevated events here in the PGA.
Yeah, Rolex was one of the first like commercial partnerships with golf. Period. I mean,
so I've known that over the years. Obviously, even on the PGA tour, they're a big sponsor with the backboards of the tee boxes and whatnot.
And you always see the classic green clock posted up there, with the Rolex time. No, this goes back to the late 20 teens when they did roll it out, just for the same freaking reasons that, originally we did the World Golf Tour or the WGCs, and those are gone. Whatever you can do to shake up the status quo to entice these guys to get more interested or, bring more eyeballs. And usually that means more money. It is like the Rolex series. So if the PGA Tour, watch, it might be coming too. Although if this new money comes in from the PIF, maybe not. But you could see that we already have it. I mean, the FedEx Cup playoffs is essentially a little series that it has individual events that have their own sponsors, but it's part of this overall thing, this entity. So that's kind of what I'm paying attention to as well. Because these guys talk about it like it's a big deal. I don't really think so, because again, I'm so America-centric with my golf, and that's why I'm trying to branch out and watch a little more DP World Tour. Also, morning golf is great, and you get a lot of that when you follow the DP World Tour.
It really gets you through the work day, like the start to your work day. You just pop it on while you're going through your emails and stuff. Yeah. I can get down with that.
Nothing gets me going like watching a guy hit a stinger in some 20-mile-an-hour winds. No, it's fucking slow, dude. It's boring.
Yes.
Although we got college football. College football's back.
NFL you act like that's exciting. Back. You act like that's exciting for you, though, as a Georgia fan. Getting to roll over the likes of Ball State this past weekend.
Oh, but I just love college football in general, mostly because whatever others do can impact us still with the Final Four setup they have now. But you are right. We did roll Ball State, which is expected. We have South Carolina this weekend, and folks are thinking that's going to be another just walk in the park, but. I mean, it's an SEC game, so you never take those lightly. And at the same time, when I was there, it was like my freshman or sophomore year, Mark Richt goes for it. I think it was my freshman year. Mark Richt goes for it on like 2nd and goal with 13 seconds left. He runs the ball with no timeouts. The clock just runs out, and we lose by 5. Or I think we even might have just needed a field goal to tie it. He was going to try to run one play and then kick the field goal, and it just baffled me. So, I mean, weird things can happen. A couple of years ago, missed kick by Blankenship, and there goes our playoff hope. So you don't take it for granted, but you are right. It is pretty boring. So I'm trying to find the Olivares Leon stories and the Irish Open and what's the angle there. So I did learn a little bit about the Rolex series, trying to go down that rabbit hole. Last but certainly not least, because it is 9/11. Or it was yesterday.
It was yesterday, yes.
Have you seen, I think this opened up a couple of years ago, Jack Nicklaus's course up in Grand Haven, Michigan, American Dunes?
I haven't, no.
So it was just, I think, like the Grand Haven Golf Club. My uncle lives there. And a couple of years ago, the family that owned it wanted to redo it, cleared out a bunch of land, yada, yada, yada. But they ultimately ended up partnering with Folds of Honor, which brought me back around to the whole 9/11 thought. Because I saw that they're hosting their 2nd annual Folds of Honor Collegiate. I think it's a collegiate tournament, or it might be an invitational or something like that. And I don't know, DNP should go on the road to Grand Haven, Michigan. We can stay on my uncle's boat right there on Lake Michigan, and we'll play Folds of Honor.
That'd be cool.
Brought to you by your name here. We do have to get into some divots or some pivots. It's definitely pivot season, like you said, and there's
a ton.
I don't want to get in there too early, but we are going to get into the biggest pivot of them all from last night. The team that has to pivot the hardest and the fastest, and they don't know which way they're going to pivot or when or for how. I mean, they know where they're going to pivot this week. You can't.
So before we get on to NFL, though, I do want to still wrap up with college football because there was one more thing I want to ask you on that. If you're cool with that real fast.
Yeah,
you had to have been happy seeing Alabama lose to Texas.
I'm never happy. My wife actually brought this up. My wife, not my roommate. Same person, different personalities.
But you know what? I think that's the first time you've referred to her as your wife on this show. We're about wrapping up season 2 here, and
because when she's right, she's right. And I was chirping that too. I was like, I love seeing Saban go down. She goes, why? She's like, I like seeing them win unless it's against Georgia. She's like, because if Bama goes away, then that just weakens the whole thing too. I mean, and I get her argument, I get her point, and really then it turned to no. I wanted to see Bama actually beat the dog piss out of Texas as kind of like a careful what you wish for coming to the SEC. But the quarterback for Texas, Quinn Ewers, originally was at Ohio State. I mean, these guys shuffle around. DG, the guy who came behind Trevor Lawrence at Clemson, DG Ualala, what I can't say his last name. I don't want to butcher it. They even just refer to him as DJU when they're doing.
Yes, I noticed that.
He's out at Oregon State. I mean, everybody with the transfer portal the way it is, people just pop up everywhere, and these teams all have really, really good players. And sometimes you forget where these guys started out. I mean, he was supposed to be again the next Ohio State quarterback that was going to take them to the promised land, and then it's a fickle game. You have to cash in while you can, I guess.
Yeah, I get it, but Alabama losing to Texas.
It's a fun story.
It's fun. It's a fun story. I'm there for it. I'm cool with it. It was really the main upset of the weekend. Obviously Georgia wins, Michigan wins. Everything else kind of was pretty lopsided throughout the college football world. So
careful. Keep an eye on Duke. Duke is, I think, a sneaky 2-0.
So I am, because I'm curious to see if this win this weekend was just them riding the high of last weekend with how they played that game. So I am curious to see if they can keep it up, because that's a hard level of adrenaline to carry through multiple weeks. And there's a big sneeze. There it is. Okay.
Here's the thing. I got to the mute button. Now Duke might be having. There was a Northwestern team in the late '90s that had this magnificent 11-1 run. Went to the Rose Bowl. The whole bit. And I feel like they might be capturing. They're lightning, but you are right. Sometimes you get a big upset, and then you can ride that momentum for a week or two, and then October comes. I mean, it's kind of like you see our poor Patriots and how close we came to pulling it off. I know I'm drifting back to the NFL.
That's fine, because we're going to get there anyways.
It's the only. We have to. Oh my God, I'm going to sneeze again. Where do you want to go first in the NFL? I mean, we could go back to the Fortinet Championship. It is going on this week. I'll talk about the FedEx Cup fall later, but please tell me, everybody's got, this is like the what color dress are you seeing, or what are you hearing? Laurel, or whatever the hell the other word was. How do you feel? How do you feel about the Aaron Rodgers situation?
So we'll round out with Aaron Rodgers, just like the
will we
this week? We will, because the Jets saved the NFL from a disastrous.
All right, I'll hear your stories.
Yeah, we because look, Thursday night game was all right. There's nothing really great about it. And then a primetime Sunday night game, obviously that disaster with the Giants, as Abdallah here in the comments says, how about them Giants? Yeah, how about them Giants? That was an absolute I don't usually turn those games off, but I went to bed, and when I woke up and saw the final score, I went, geez, it got even worse. And that's the fact that Thursday night was a bit of a snooze. Sunday night was an absolute blowout, which by two rival teams, which should have been absolute money for Sunday Night Football. And then what was transpiring. So last night, the stage was set perfectly. MetLife Stadium, right there in New York, September 11th. The pregame ceremonies, Queen Latifah, the national. Oh no, that was Queen Latifah. Did she do it Sunday night? Oh, I think I'm good. No, she did it. She did it last night. Queen Latifah sings the national anthem last night with the NYPD and the FDNY choir behind her. Aaron Rodgers running onto the field, leading the team out with the American flag. Like, the atmosphere was there. You could even see it in the pregame show on NFL Network. Steve Mariucci choked up at the desk when they cut back to him after that entrance of Aaron Rodgers. Choked up, changed his pick right there because he said this is what football's about. It's an emotional sport. You don't pick against the energy that's in that stadium. Basically, it's like I'm paraphrasing what he said, but that's basically what he was saying. And you could feel it through the TV. It was like, okay, I was leaning forward. I'm not even a Jets fan. I'm not a Bills fan, obviously, as a Pats fan, but I was on the edge of my seat just ready for some football.
Good television.
And yeah, it was just great television. And then as someone who hates Aaron Rodgers, I think he's such a douchebag. I hate the Jets because they're the Jets. And I hate the Bills because they're the Bills, division rivals. But I had Aaron Rodgers on my fantasy team, and I had Garrett Wilson on my fantasy team. So, that was the only reason I had rooting interest in it. But all that aside, still, hatred for the team, fantasy football stuff on the edge, on the line. To see, you could tell immediately when Aaron Rodgers sat down. He stood up, he looked around, and he sat down, and there was just defeat on his face. He knew it. You don't not feel your Achilles tendon snap up into your calf. There's no question about what you feel when you feel that I have a feeling. And you could tell on his face right away the second he sat down. And to watch a player get hurt 4 plays into the season like that, and their season, and in my opinion, most likely ending his career, I'm not sure. I'm leaning towards him not coming back from this. Not because I think the injury will hold him back. I think he can physically come back from it. I'm not sure he's going to choose to. I think he's going to choose to take his $75 million guaranteed from his new contract with the Jets and walk away. Which I don't blame him for it. 39 years old, go for it. But even more so to the Jets fans, how brutal. Your saving grace is finally here, and it goes down like that. And to see and feel the energy just get sucked out of that stadium, which was going to be such great television and such a great experience, was brutal to watch until it wasn't anymore. Because the Jets somehow fucking pulled off a miracle. They go out there, they tie it up, and then, yes, they give up a field goal to where the Bills push overtime. The Bills tied it up. But then to have a rookie who barely makes the team run back a punt for the winning touchdown in overtime, are you kidding me? That, it still somehow turned into great freaking football, even though there was such a high and then such a low. It got back up to the high, and that's what football is all about. So Monday Night Football and the Jets saved primetime Week 1 football for the NFL because it was going to be abysmal. If they had Josh Allen just blowing that without the excitement of the way that game ended, man, and then Aaron Rodgers going out there and getting hurt at the same time, it just would have been an absolute disaster. And I finished talking right when you take a sip.
You think Rodgers is done?
I think he's going to choose to be done. So I think there was obviously the biggest questions about him wasn't necessarily if he could still physically do it, but he didn't seem to have the desire to play anymore when he was in Green Bay, which understandable. He was unhappy there, and he was done being there. And you could see he had a bit of a fire reignited in him with the Jets this year, and was going to turn out all right. I don't think he was going to hit his peak prime seasons that he's had before, but I think he was going to be just fine for the Jets this year and be enough for what that team needed him to be with the talent they have. But I think this is just going to be such a wind out of his sail. Is he really going to want to go through the rehab of this all year and then come back next year? I don't see it. I think that fire is going to be ripped out of him, and I think we saw enough of the way he can carry himself when he does get kind of dejected and down and out of it that I'm not sure he's going to want to come back. I think he's going to hang it up. He won't tell us until right before the season starts next year because that's Aaron Rodgers' style, but I think that'll be the final result.
I don't. I think you are right that you saw a change in him when he got to New York, and he talked about it in some of the interviews where all of a sudden now he's like, yeah, man, I'm going to Broadway. There's not a lot to do in Green Bay, to be honest.
Fair.
so
Fair.
it is a different, it's a different atmosphere. And I think the fact that it was 4 plays in and not towards the end of the first game, or even like, after taking a few shots, I think he's just going to go get the surgery. And then if the doctors say it's possible, he'll do it. I don't think, I think that there's a lot of money to be made there. And I think legacy kind of stuff, if he looks around and if they can actually hold on to whatever team they put together, I think he's going to come back. But I see your point too of the age factor coming in. Dan Marino towards the end of his career, he got popped and then he had to come back after his Achilles went. Kobe did it and bounced back. I mean, so it is possible. I think, who knows? Maybe he's going to go down to Peru, do some ayahuasca, figure it out from there. Ayahuasca.
Yeah, it's my co-author Brian Scott, and so our weekly article inside the medical tent is going to be coming out and probably within minutes before the show is over, it'll be out. But as you'll see, he says in there, the one thing he has going for him as far as if he does come back is that it's not his back leg, aka his plant leg for throwing. That would be more problematic for him because this is, an Achilles injury, just like an ACL injury, is one of those injuries that tends to you lose a step. You lose a little bit of pop and jump in your athleticism on that part of your body when that injury happens. So if this was his back and plant leg for throwing, that would be a different story. At least it's not that for him. But I don't know. I'm still leaning towards over 50% that he's done for his career.
Over 50. I'd take some of that action.
Yeah, but that's last night. That's Aaron Rodgers though. That Jets the Jets, the way they came back though. Good God, that was so much fun to watch. And I hate the Jets. I hate the Jets so much.
I do too. I hate the Jets, but I don't know if I say I hate the Bills, but I love watching the Bills fumble. Figuratively and literally speaking.
Yeah.
But watching them get the Charlie Brown Lucy football treatment just one more time. They went to those 4 straight Super Bowls, and people but that's hard as fuck to get there in the first place once.
Yeah,
let alone 4 straight times. It's just, man. By the way, while we're talking about this, I think ESPN just popped on the 30 for 30 about the Fab Five. You want to talk about another era of fans? Because I was one of them. I was a little 7, 8, 9-year-old Boudreaux who was huge. I loved Michigan basketball at that age, and they were coming off of like a 1989 national title with Glenn Rice. People confuse that; they forget sometimes. The Fab Five never actually won their title, but they were just absolutely it. There was. They came up against UNLV and Duke, and then there was the timeout game with Arkansas, and then there was the timeout game, with UNC, and it was a tough time to be a Michigan fan with all that hope just snatched away from you. But they were doing something funny on DP show today, talking about just that. Like, as a Jets fan, they had one of I can't remember the guy's name. You'd probably know it if I said it, but he was on talking about being at the game, and he left early because he had to get home to get some sleep and do like morning television. And when he was on his way out, he saw this family, and it was literally right after Rodgers went down. He said he was on his way out, and this family was walking in, and he was like, it was a family. They're all wearing 8 jerseys with Rodgers on the back, parents and a couple of kids, one's on the shoulders. And he's like, they're just as high as a kite, going in there thinking, our guy's here. He's like, all I could think was, oh my God, those poor people. Like they're gonna walk through that, because I guess there was a lot of weather in New Jersey yesterday, kept a bunch of the crowd out. That there was late arrivals and stuff, and he said that was there was probably that gap of time where people were leaving their cars, where they were listening to it, and just the walk from the car to the stadium. Maybe they didn't have their phone out. Maybe they thought, hey, we're already here. He's like, for those people to get hit like that when you walk in and just see, like, what's the kid doing out there? What do we?
Or why is the stadium silent? With everybody just on their knee, like hands on their knees, like that's what it was. They couldn't pan to enough people. It was brutal to watch. Just as a fan, like one fan to another, knowing what that feels like. Because look, in 2008 with Tom Brady, first game of the year, like I know how it feels. It's sickening.
Didn't that team go like 10-6 or 11-5 and still not make the playoffs?
Yeah, Matt Castle led them to that record behind Belichick, and they missed the playoffs because of if I can remember correctly, a final week loss to the Jets. I think.
Whatever. It was one of those like
it was
1
something
p.m.
like that. Yeah,
gut wrenching. How did we lose this game?
I believe the Jets went to the AFC Championship that year, though. They went 2 years in a row under Rex Ryan.
Was that one of the Sanchez years?
Yeah, I believe so. I might be confusing years, but I believe that's how those years lined up together.
By the way, speaking of Matt Sanchez, USC grad, the USC quarterback, Caleb Williams, is out here doing national win. NIL is just absolutely off the chain. Right? I looked up and I'm like, oh, Caleb Williams doing Wendy's commercials. This totally makes sense. This is absolutely what they had in mind for the struggling. Hey, I'm not hating on it, No, like Coach Prime says, get your bag. Can't believe we blew right past that. I mean, Coach Prime 2-0. I want to see what happens when they go up against USC. They got USC. Sure. And they got Colorado State this week, which should be a walk for them. Colorado State's kind of a joke. And then I think after that, next week is USC or when is it? Rex Ryan.
I know, right? Is Colorado's not ranked though, right? No, they are ranked.
They are now, yeah. And rightfully so. You go into TCU, who just come off, national title appearance where they got absolutely dog stomped. And then
that's right. I forgot for a second.
And then you go. I mean, that's right. Yeah. Nebraska is still a national brand, and they should. They're a Power 5 win on the not on the road.
And did they win that one in Nebraska?
No, that was at home.
On the road. That was at home. Okay.
Yeah. So when do we get Prime in USC? That is going to be October 1st. Do we have to wait till fucking October for any decent football? I think so. Woof. All right, we'll live until then. Yeah, whatever that last week, October 1st, September, until we can get some decent football. But until then, back to what the letdown of the Jets, the Jets, Jets. Remember, the inverse is true too, though. Do you remember seeing Seattle? Where were you when Seattle did not run with Marshawn?
I know. I remember exactly where I was. Because I was sitting, so I was at a friend's house for that Super Bowl. There was a big group of us. He had a real big living room. There was like 2 steps down into the living room, and I was sitting on the steps looking at the TV because there was just not enough seats for all of us. And I remember the second that Butler made that interception on the goal line, I remember watching my friend's father jump up out of his recliner and landing on the recliner so hard that he tipped the whole thing backwards over. And every single person in that room, for some reason at that exact moment, decided that the second we saw him hit the ground on his back, we jumped on him. It was just a massive like dog pile celebration. That I will never forget that night. That night was freaking amazing.
It just hit me that Georgia had one of those this past year. We're playing, Ohio State. They're driving 40-yard field goal. The guy had made them all. And then did you watch that semifinal game? It was literally as they did a side-by-side with the ball dropping at Times Square. And as the ball dropped and hit midnight.
That's right. I didn't see the game live, but I remember seeing the replay of that and thinking that was absolutely crazy. I do remember that now.
I was borderline comatose at that point, just like out of emotion. I was sitting there, and when it went left, I just looked at my roommate, and she was like screaming, and I was just shaking my head laughing, like, of course. And I did say to her, literally in that moment, I was like, we are going to absolutely beat the piss out of TCU. And it was kind of like when the Red Sox in 2004, after being down 3-0, and they come back and it was the do you believe in miracles game. That wasn't the gold medal game. It wasn't the final, but they did go on to win. Had they not, it certainly wouldn't have been as big of a story. It would have been a big story, but it would have only been a big story to like the fans of that sport versus sport in general, and just larger than that. The 2004 Red Sox. I watch 4 Days in October. Speaking of 30 for 30, I usually watch that twice a year. Once with my roommate knowing, and then she tells me right when I watch it, there you go, you jinxed us, we're not going to win another. I'm like, you said that before the 13 World Series, before the 18 World Series, like, shut up. Or maybe it was right after the 13 World Series.
But there are times that the semifinal is more
overshadows.
in the end. It's just the bigger moment. It was like you already pointed out. It was like that with, because think about it. Both of the 05, 04 and they won it back to back 04 and 05 or no 04 and 07.
Pats?
No, the Sox.
Yes.
They 04 and 07. I mean, both of those World Series they swept in the end. Like the World Series themselves were freaking snooze fest. They were boring. You knew it was done 2 games in. But the ALC Championship Series leading into it was money. It was gold. It was a 7-game slugfest. Like there was like those semifinals, especially the one against the Yankees in 04. Like it's just always going to overshadow. No one's going to remember that World Series other than the fact that, or just because it was because the Red Sox won for the first time in a lifetime. Literally in some people's lifetime.
I can't get enough of this Fab 5 30 for 30. I have a golf. I have a head cover that's a Michigan Wolverine. It was because of my obsession. My mom gave it to me, bought it for me. I doubt she just had one laying around.
Well, let's take a quick break. Let's hear from Underdog real fast, and then when we come back, we can see what other football thoughts are on our mind and see what other random sports musings we get into. We'll be right back after this.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is Best Ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, no waivers. It's their biggest contest ever and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
Yes, get on there and use that discount code DIVPIV when signing up for Underdog Fantasy. I'm in a ton of best balls on there for this season, this NFL season. And once you draft them, you just sit back and forget about it until the final week of the season, and you see how you did. It doesn't require any lineup management. You just draft. Underdog will do the rest. So, any other thoughts on your Fab Five since it's still so forward in your mind right now? You're obsessed.
Nah, I got distracted by Chat GPT, and
I wanted to give you your moments.
I told Chat GPT to tell me a golf joke, and it says, "Why do golfers always carry 2 pairs of pants?"
Why?
In case they get a hole in one.
This happened last time we tried to do golf jokes. Remember that?
I know.
And neither one of us laughed at each other's joke.
This isn't my joke. This is AI. This is what keeps me confident AI is not going to take over everything, because first of all, they didn't even do it right. I had to correct it. This was written, why don't golfers ever bring 2 pairs of pants in case they get a hole in one? And I'm thinking, no, well, actually, you want to have a second pair of pants if you get a hole in your pair of your pants. I've split my pants before on the golf course, and luckily I had an extra pair in my golf bag. Just saying, it happens.
You brought up AI, and now I need to find this story really fast. Did you see the AI robots that were operating amongst the fans at the Chargers game this weekend?
No, and I already don't like where this is going.
I'm gonna blow this picture up. I'm gonna share my screen right here on this stream. It's the stuff that nightmares are made out of.
Are you about to share some nightmare fuel?
Yeah. Hold on, where's this?
No way. I just pulled it up. These fuckers in jumpsuits that look like they're wearing bionic headphones. Right. Absolutely not. And why do they have to make them look? They can be a lot nicer with how they design.
That, oh my god, the size of this freaking bug. Anyways,
I don't.
Isn't that the scariest freaking thing you've ever seen? That's some iRobot stuff.
That's not good at all,
right?
Couple.
Tell me, if they just wrap the skin around the robot parts that you
just
can
the
see
phrase
on the
wrap the skin around. The
I know,
fact
right?
That this has entered.
But follow me, they cover that stuff up. and you look at this group of people, you think they're people. Do you think they're awkward and weird and whatever? Sure, but you don't think they're robots.
Have you heard, speaking of weird robots, this drug that like there all these people are not, it's not like a party drug. It's saying things like the kids aren't having like popping pills and smoking the doobies. No, this is like for junkies on this, not for junkies on the specifically designed for the junkie on the street. No, it's what the real desperate folks who are in a bad way and they're heroin, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
It's called Trank. They've resorted to,
I have heard of it,
mixing animal tranquilizer with fentanyl.
It's the stuff that'll kill you.
And the animal tranquilizer like causes your skin to like pus and then like spread, kind of like the gray skin or gray. Did you watch Game of Thrones? I did
not watch Game of Thrones.
You're fucking useless. So it's like it basically like eats away at your skin, but and also since it's a sedative, not an opioid, like the Narcan that they give people doesn't work on it because it's a whole different, chemical reaction or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I heard about this today, and all I could think to myself is animal tranquilizer and fentanyl. Scary shit.
It's terrifying. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody like overdose on fentanyl before, but it's terrifying.
Are we about to get real?
Watch.
Was this a?
No, I won't go into too much detail. This is when I was working in Boston 4+ years ago now.
Did the person know they were taking fentanyl, or was this something that they found out later was laced with fentanyl?
That I don't know, because I saw this person. I'd seen enough in being in Boston for the 2 years that I worked at the showroom in Boston. I had seen enough people getting high to recognize the different, like which different drugs people were on. And fentanyl had a very kind of unique posture, if you want to say, to the way they carried themselves as they tried to stumble down the street. And this person just dropped right in front of our showroom door and just laid there and was out, and the ambulance came and they could not wake him up. They put him in that ambulance, but then the ambulance stayed there for a while and another ambulance came. They transferred him to the other ambulance, and it was a whole thing that lasted like an hour, to the point where I'd gone and asked like the EMTs. This is the only reason why I know specifically that was fentanyl. I asked them like, what the hell's going on? Like, what was this guy on? Then they were like, we think it's fentanyl. Like it's getting crazy around here.
Don't do drugs that you don't grow yourself. That's what I say.
Yeah, but it's scary to watch, like, because it looks like they're like frozen in time, and you don't want to make light of it, but it looks like they're
zombies. In they look like zombies,
bending in weird ways because they're just trying to stay balanced with however it's fucked up. Don't do it.
So we were talking about the Fortinet Championship.
Was that what we were talking about?
I got a question for you. First of all, two things. International golf is around the corner. We got the Solheim Cup next week, so you are going to be hearing about that on the show. I'm going to make Andrew get educated on the women's international. So it also, Solheim Cup is apparently going to another, like they're going to play this year, and then either next. I think they're playing back-to-back years because they got thrown off by the COVID rotation, and they're going back to, I think, even numbered years in 24 or 26. But the Solheim Cup is just the Ryder Cup, essentially for the same kind of setup and same teams and everything for the women's game, continental Europe and the UK versus the United States. So that's coming up, and there's been some familiar names that we've mentioned on this show that are on the teams. We'll talk about that. But before that, and then the following week is obviously the Ryder Cup, Marco Simone. That's the real deal show for us anyways. I don't mean real deal as in women's golf isn't the real deal. I just mean that it is the ultimate, as in last event on the calendar before we really kind of pivot hard to football, because I don't see myself getting too much into these FedEx Fall Swing events. And let me explain to you real quick what the FedEx Fall Swing is, because we've been asking this question about, okay, if we're going back to a calendar year, but there's going to be tournaments in the fall, what the hell does it all mean? They're not going to get rid of all of these fall tournaments. They're actually going to keep, I think, this year it's 8, and in the future years it might fluctuate 6, 7, and 8. I've seen but essentially it's a way for them to continually narrow the top of. I don't think they're going to go any more than they already have with the FedEx Cup playoffs being at 70, because then they get a nice little 70, 50, 30 cadence going. But
yeah,
the flip question of that was like, all right, so what the hell, what is there to play for then if you're not in that top 70? Well, your status on tour for the following year. So those guys who are obviously top 50 are locked in for next year. They're good to go. Winners of PGA Tour events get a 2-year exemption, but I'm just talking about where you finish and what does that grant you. So that asks the question, from 51 to 70, I think they're pretty well locked in with their status for next year, but they can play in these fall events if they want to, just for the money or for positioning for signature events if they're not already qualified for the signature events, because the top 50 automatically get locked into the signature events. So really what this fall is going to be about and what the subsequent falls are going to be about is just that. The people now, and also guys who are like 126 and above, and from basically 71 to 125, they're playing for status too. They're playing to try to hold on to that. So there's always going to be this FedEx Cup playoff finale, that a tour championship that happens, but then it's like there's going to be that competition that continues just for those folks who didn't make the playoffs to say how high can you finish, and you might actually get passed up if you don't go out there and defend your spot. So there is going to be good competitive golf going on this fall. There's going to be a lot of names because, as we saw, you forget, there's a lot of good golfers out there who just didn't make it to the Tour Championship, or they didn't make it to the top 50, and so we forget about it a little bit. But the only two Ryder Cuppers that are going to be there are going to be Max Homa and JT. Now, why is Max playing in the Fortinet Championship when he's got the Ryder Cup 2 weeks around the corner? Well, he won it back-to-back years, and nobody's done it 3 years in a row since Steve Stricker did it with the John Deere in 9, 10, and 11. So he's going to go try to defend. And I applaud him for that, because if he didn't go back, people would just very well be like, oh, he's probably working on the Ryder Cup game. I mean, I don't know what these guys have in mind, if they're going to go like down to Jupiter and all play money matches for the next 2 weeks to, build up the competitive whatever.
Aren't they already in Rome?
They did.
They just went for a scouting trip, right?
They did a visit, and Jim Furyk wore the famous 1999 polo that has pictures all over it. Looks like a wallpaper from a bad clubhouse. but no, So Max is going to come defend and try to do the three-peat, and they're back in California, and he does very well in California. Justin Thomas is actually on there for the status thing, right? And I think to kind of maybe. I don't know if prove is the right word, but to solidify, that yes, that wasn't a fluke. I was close. My game's here, and maybe go lock up a win. I don't think we'll see much more of him after this. I do think that this is maybe him after missing the playoffs. Let me go get a couple competitive tournament rounds in. Yeah. Even though the Ryder Cup is a whole different atmosphere and beast. Those guys are playing literally hole by hole, like hole by hole, like round by round in a prize fight, versus the 72-hole long game. I mean, every shot is huge and can pivot, every hole counts. But at the same time, you can take more risks, because if your partner's got you, or, if your partner's got your blessing, then, you can just walk away from a bad shot. A 10 doesn't hurt you any more than, losing a hole by one stroke. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when they do get over there. But the flip side of that, as I mentioned, Wentworth is going on, the BMW, the Rolex series, their signature events. Yeah. All 12 of the Ryder Cup team from Europe is playing in that. So my question to you is, do you anticipate, or what do you think about the discrepancy there in the team's participations in their various tour events?
I do think it gives a little bit of an edge to the European guys out there, all playing competitive rounds, all playing in the same tournament. It means they're going to be able to meet after their rounds and talk about what went right, what went wrong, what that means that happened in that tournament, what they can carry forward to work on for the right. Like, I think it can almost be viewed as a team building exercise, and it's because that's what I feel like they're probably using that for, is kind of like that. Like, they're using it to stay fresh. But they'll use it to communicate and strategize as well. So, it's a small edge. Like, I don't think it's going to be the reason why your wins or loses or US loses. But I think would I prefer to be doing that compared to nothing? Yeah, I would rather be doing what those guys are doing.
And see, that's why I'm dying to know what is going on in Team USA, because they picked, So I kind of jokingly said, all down in Jupiter and play a year-round tour. Well, Jupiter is where JT and Ricky and even Rory lives in Jupiter, but like JT, Ricky, Brooks, a lot of those Florida guys. And then you've got Scotty and Sam Burns, who, I think actually Sam's in Florida now, but is from Texas. But that's what I want to know too. Did they all go back to their own individual teams and their own swing doctors? And are they just tweaking their game? Or are they together, and are they, like I said, are they just going to play money matches for the next 3 weeks? And like, maybe I hope, and I would hope that they are treating it like a camp almost. We got a couple weeks. Let's just all hold up together. It's not like money's a freaking object for these guys. And, and again, half of them live down there anyway. You got access to some of the world, they're all members. A bunch of those guys are members at, Grove 23. And then there's the Medalists is where a lot of them actually play. Medalist Golf Club down there apparently is one of those like sneaky hard tracks, which is why they all play there. So I'm dying to find out what happens there, because I do think that if it comes out that we laid a big old goose egg, I want to know what happened in that dead space, and why weren't all 12 of these guys at the Fortinet? But I also understand that, Max is here. He doesn't have to be, but people understand why he's there. Again, the defending champ.
Sure.
If I don't know, just say a fucking name. If Sam Burns is like, I'm going to go play Fortinet, Sam, your future's locked up. Like, you're going to be on tour for quite some time now. You got a couple wins. You got some exemptions. Your status is kind of solid. You're taking space away from somebody who literally could be moving up the ranks, and this could be impactful for them. So I understand why they wouldn't, even given the opportunity, why they're passing on it. But what are they doing in the meantime? Because the knock on the team, on Team USA for years, has been a bunch of individuals, a bunch of prima donnas. We came together great. Whistling Straits 2 years ago, you saw some just sheer domination. I don't know how much of that was team vibes versus just a fucking really good collection of golfers who are all playing really, really good. I mean, that was DJ was playing well. He went 5-0. Speaking of, real quick, live plug. You see that Cam Smith announced that he's got status on the DP World Tour. So Cam Smith is going to keep playing the rest of the season because he needs his world ranking points. And he kind of talked about how irrelevant the world rankings are becoming. And all I can think to myself is, they haven't moved, and all I hear is very faint. Yeah, irrelevant. I don't want to live golf.
Yeah, it's
shut up. You know what, guys? You just wait a couple more months. Don't make any more statements. Find out what your fate is. If Liv, because I do think that if Liv can negotiate existing in this partnership agreement or whatever, they're gonna then probably insist on points. There's no way that doesn't happen.
Yeah, there's no way they're not having that as part of the negotiation. That's been a flag plant of theirs since the beginning.
And so it was in the early 2000s, even when Tiger and Phil got put out as a Ryder Cup team, and they got their asses kicked. They were awful at like best ball and alternate shot, because it is a strategic game. You can't just say, here's the talent, go, which is why I like that they've opened it up to 6 captains picks, because locking it in at 10, you really can have a guy who played really well 8 months ago and maybe racked up even a win or two and then got all those points and banked them early. And it's playing like garbage. So the whole way that it's structured now to get the form. So what are they doing with those guys in their form? I'm dying to know. I would love to know
too.
Like not the conspiracy theorist in me, but the sports fan in me, like I said, it hopes that they're all down at Jupiter or wherever the hell they are, like having some sort of like 2-week Remember the Titans type retreat. Because you think about it, it's been 30 years since we've won a Ryder Cup on European soil. It's a big deal. I mean, that is a streak that you look at the history of the Ryder Cup. There was a 50-year stretch where we only lost once. And it was like from like 1947 or 1945, right after the first one after World War II, we went on a 50-year run where we only had one loss. And then all of a sudden, when they integrated with the continental Europe, changed the tides a little bit. And now, we've been on our heels. If you take 3 steps back, I mean, it feels good that we won the way we did a couple of years ago. But if you take, again, 3 steps back, then you're 6 steps back. We've been getting our ass handed to us in my lifetime, and there's been some high expectations. So I'm nervous. I'm excited. I don't know what to expect, because I mean, it's the fucking Ryder Cup. I was pretty confident going into 2018 in Paris, just because I thought we had a bunch of talented guys on the team. It turns out that they just had a better team. So I think that's where, and Luke Donald was kind of leaning into that. He talking about how talented his guys are and just what good form they're in, versus how we're almost being criticized for the boys club atmosphere, or making it about, partnerships and relationships. But team golf, alternate shot, or best ball are just a really weird. It's a weird mentality. Again, when it does bring the true team sport aspect into it when you're playing with a partner in a round, versus the live team where we don't know whose score is counting and not, and it's still an individual. You know what it is? Live scoring and their team sport has nothing to do with actually a team game in the way that Ryder Cup does, or the way that a best ball and an alternate shot, because you don't know. You have no idea, A, whether your score is going to be used, and B, you're not with the person. You're not looking a teammate in the eye after you can just shrug off a bad shot and move on, and think to yourself like, all right, I can get that back. But when you have to turn and look somebody in the eye right afterwards, or pick them up and have the opportunity to do so, it's a whole different team aspect. The live golf is just a scoring tactic, little trick they use to try to make us think that it's exciting and fun. But they get to wear shorts. And they play music. So,
really, as far as their scoring goes, it really is just that the only difference they made or change they made was making half the field irrelevant come Sunday, pretty much. Basically, what were they playing for if their score doesn't matter? So, yeah, there isn't a functional change to the way it's scored like you see in the Ryder Cup and these other team events for sure. That's a great point. I never thought of it from that angle before.
I forgot the Taylor Gooch. I'm on the Live website because the last time I was on the Live website, it was down.
Yes.
Remember that earlier in the season?
I do remember that.
They've done some updates. We've got Live Chicago coming up September 22nd through the 24th. You can get that on the CW network, Live Golf Plus, and YouTube TV. Not YouTube TV. YouTube. Totally different.
What has more success on the CW network, the ACC football deal or the Live golf deal?
Dawson's Creek still has more success on the CW network than anybody else.
Touche.
Heartland. Heartland. Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Hey, now we're talking. That's my childhood right there.
Big Buffy guy?
My dad was a big Buffy fan, and then so I watched it with him, and Sarah Michelle Gellar was one of my first loves. So
that's fair. I could see that. I had a little crush on Sarah Michelle Gellar, especially with, was it Cruel Intentions? Her and Selma Blair.
Yes,
and,
Cruel Intentions.
The Justin Timberlake before he was Justin Timberlake, also known as Ryan Phillippe. Is it Phillippe? I think so.
I don't know, but
it's exactly the same look. That's what I think. JT got out of NSYNC and was like, I want to be Ryan Phillippe from 1999. And they were like, you know what? Good call. He didn't really land that.
It was fine. I am looking at this the field for the Fortinet Championship, and there are some names in here.
Talk to me, Goose.
I mean, Bo Hostler's in there. Where we see here, your boy David Lipsky's in the field.
Lipsky's going to break through. That's going to be a big prediction of mine in 24. Lipsky jumps in there and breaks through.
Sure, Joel Diamond's in there. I'd love to see him do something.
Sure.
Who wouldn't? But Kevin Kisner might be feeling a little jealous that he can't be part of a team event because we know he loves the match play style. But Kuchar's there. Andrew Putnam, who actually had a good year this year, is in the FedEx Cup top 50. He's there. Zach Johnson, the leader, is playing this weekend. So this
El Capitan.
Yeah, there's some names out here. It's a big pro. That stands out.
It's a pretty big professional golf landscape.
My boy Austin Smotherman, Sahith Theegala is in the field as well.
I think we see him in a President's Cup or a Ryder Cup in the next, I say, 4 years. I think he'll miss the next one. I don't think he's going to get in next year's President's Cup unless all of a sudden he goes on just some sort of tear and wins 2, 3, 4 times and catches form. But I just like him. And, of course, there's the full swing.
Sure.
When's Full Swing Season 2 coming out?
You just put that in my head, too. I was about to ask you. You beat me, too. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, God, don't. Let me just
Akshay's in the field too, by the way.
Will there be? Yes, and that we're Team AB this year. He just got engaged. So did Matty Fitzpatrick.
I saw Matty Fitzpatrick got engaged. I did not see that Akshay did though.
I mean, shoot your shot, buddy. They met on Instagram. A tale as old as time.
Christian Bezuidenhout.
Whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that they have.
That's why I'll never make it big because I just Just, whatever.
I don't think that they've announced a date. Wait, season 5 for Drive to Survive. Yeah, no. Oh well, we'll figure it out. Season 2 at some point, but that's exactly why. Wait, Full Swing 2020. That's exactly why he's on everybody's radar. Same thing with like Joel Damon. He got he obviously got a lot of love from the Full Swing experience. I can't believe you have to say Full Swing wearing that robe. What is the material of this robe?
Oh,
don't ever use that tone with me. That was gross.
I don't know what the actual material is. It's definitely not real silk, but
it's like a silky material. So you really are wearing a dirty, sleazy, cum-stained, silky robe.
Part
you don't want to answer yes or no.
I'm not just giving that a blanket yes.
And nor you
I will
say
deny. It's toasty though. It's for how thin it is. It's toasty.
Toasty. Are you making it hotter?
Probably.
At this point, if anybody's still listening at this point, I applaud you and your dedication to the show. What are we looking at for week 2 in the NFL? Like you already alluded to, Georgia, South Carolina this weekend for the Dogs. I think other than that, you do have Colorado State just because Coach Prime and the Prime train. I'd love to see them stumble, but we got the Dolphins, Pats Sunday night 8:20. Do you have any? I have hope. I have a little bit of hope. And we've been saving the best for last. Let's finish with the Pats.
The way the Pats started that game, my hope was gone real fast. But they stood tough and they turned it around. They made it a game. There's still some issues to work out. But the biggest thing for me was that the offensive line actually performed pretty damn well considering how awful they were said to have going to be. So that's why I have hope, because I feel like the rest of the issues that they had are week 1 rust issues. The penalties were the worst thing. It's not that they took a lot of penalties, but their penalties were awfully timed and stupid given the situation. So if they can clean up the penalties, I think some of the other stuff is going to shake off naturally. And if that offensive line can keep playing, I'm not saying they're going to fucking make the playoffs even, but they might have a shot at making the playoffs. And especially now that the Jets aren't going to be what the Jets were supposed to be. Yes, they came back and won last night. But let's be real. Zach Wilson is not going to lead this team to glory, and Zach Wilson. You don't think
High School Musical is going to host the Lombardi? So
no. So I think they might not finish last in the division now, though. We'll see. I still think the Jets the Jets team is still talented. They're just lacking talent at the quarterback position. So we'll see how it shakes out. But I have a little bit of hope. I think there could be some competitiveness now.
I think that the Pats remember back in the Brady days, sometimes there'd be Septembers that are 2-2, sometimes they're 3-1. I mean, this is the extended preseason. They didn't look like a dumpster fire. At
first they did. The first couple drives they did.
But once they settled the nerves, then so I think that obviously we'll learn a lot more when we go against the Paladins, the Porpoise. Dolphins are a porpoise. We go against the Dolphins this weekend, but Sunday's gonna be a fun day as is. 1:00. I'm excited to see what happens with the Bills, how they bounce back after that just absolute nightmare of a flop.
They looked awful.
Jimmy G looks good in black and gold or black and silver out in Las Vegas. I'm not gonna lie, I have a little man crush on Jimmy G. 425 Jets Cowboys.
We saw what the Cowboys defense can do, and I know the Giants.
What's the line?
Shat themselves.
Dallas is only getting 8 or giving 8.5.
Oh, I'm taking them.
This has got to be.
I'm taking them.
And the over under
that defense is going to. See, that's the thing. The Jets' offensive line, even with Rodgers back there, still wasn't great, and what we saw, the Cowboys defensive line due to the Giants. Daniel Jones didn't stand a chance. And that's the thing. I don't put that Giants loss on Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones couldn't move the entire game. I should word that differently. He had to move the entire game, but he couldn't move to where he needed to be. So I think I see that being another absolute barn burner for the Cowboys.
I think Dallas minus 8.5 is easy money, but the over under 39.5 is, I think, a sucker's bet, because
Yeah.
You're not going to have a defensive scoring output like that every week. Your point's
you
valid.
might with Zach Wilson. Going against Zach Wilson, you might. I mean,
never bet on a defensive touchdown. All right, take us home, Hoss.
Yeah, we're going to take us home, and we're going to get ready for another week of the NFL here. We're got a couple more weeks of the Ryder Cup, so we're going to sprinkle in some golf, but you can still catch us every week here. We're not disappearing for you. Every Tuesday, 8 o'clock here on Fantasy Sports Corporation. I'm Andrew LeDuc, a.k.a. Mr. Mallard, the sophisticated one at the silky touch tonight, joined as always by Bud Copeland.
Do not use the word silky and my name in the same sentence.
I won't. That's gonna do it for us, guys. Have a great night and keep it classy.